Coming up on the Stifel Snow Show, we're recapping an exciting week in snow sports, and we're sure the rhythm's going to get you. She's back with all the right moves. The one and only Mikaela Shiffrin proving once again that with hard work and determination, her race to the finish never misses a beat. And get ready to rock and roll with a little fancy footwork. They are freestyling in sync. For the U.S. Women's Moguls team, there is no doubt groove is in their hearts. And we're dropping in on the raddest tour around, the Dew Tour, that is, for all the snowboarding and free skiing action at Copper Mountain. At every turn, these legends are on their way to the top of the charts. Welcome back to the Stifel Snow Show. I'm Carolyn Mano. Thanks for joining us as we bring you the latest and greatest in skiing and snowboarding from around the world. Where has the U.S. ski and snowboard team been? Turns out this week on some particularly memorable snow, starting with the 20th anniversary of the Dew Tour, where the U.S. snowboarding and free skiing teams had a lot to celebrate at Copper. Next to Almaty, Kazakhstan, and freestyle skiing for the men and women in moguls and aerials. Then to Cortina d'Ampezzo, Italy for some snowboard cross action. We're going the distance with cross country in beautiful Oslo at the Holmenkollen, and then we'll sprint over to Drammen in Norway for more cross country. And technically alpine action is where it's at in Aarhus, Sweden, which is where we'll begin. Mikaela Shiffrin returned to competition after suffering a knee injury in a January World Cup downhill at Cortina d'Ampezzo, the future home of the 2026 Olympic Games. And while the race for the overall title was in her sights, she prioritized recovery instead, documenting the challenging yet necessary process on her YouTube series Moving Right Along.
So basically from day one after the crash, because I was in the lead for the overall, we couldn't rule out the possibility of returning to racing sooner if I seemed to be recovering faster. It's been 38 seconds, but it's on pause because my routines dropped too much.
You there?
Wow! Oh my god, that's so weird. This has been a process of test, recover, progress, test, recover, progress.
It's 10 to 12 hours a day. Going on hour 10 right now.
Gonna go try skiing for the first time.
I'm a little nervous to see how it goes, but it should be fun. We all kind of hope and expect that every session is going to be better than the last session, but realistically, we're going to have some that are more challenging. So we can't expect that it's going to be a linear progression.
No.
You're still trending upward, you're still making progress, you still did more than 2 days ago. So, keep your head up.
Test, recover, progress. Shiffrin's self-discipline, a huge reason why she is where she is. And you can actually catch that full episode on her YouTube channel at Mikaela Shiffrin. And when Ted Ligety joined us last week, he noted that Mikaela has never started a race she doesn't think that she can win. And with that in mind, let's go to Steve Perino with Shiffrin's latest epic turn in Aure. Here's the call.
And now on the hill where she won her first ever World Cup. Mikaela Shiffrin, after 44 days of absence on the World Cup due to injury, is looking to wrap up her 8th slalom title. And she is on a burner right now. It is absolutely stunning. Mikaela Shiffrin is flying down the track in Aure once again. The queen of World Cup skiing on her comeback wins this one going away.
Absolutely stunning indeed. A 96th World Cup victory, the kind of result that comes with the hard-fought dedication that is the calling card of the ever-committed Shiffrin, joined on the podium by Croatia's Zrinka Lutic and Switzerland's Michelle Gizin. Let's move to our Fast Facts, powered by iFit. Welcome to the world of intelligent fitness. Shiffrin now claiming her 16th Crystal Globe, her 8th in the slalom. That equals a record for most World Cup wins in a specific category. A Magic 8 for Ingemar Stenmark and Lindsey Vonn as well. And Austria's Marcel Hirscher also having won the men's overall, you guessed it, 8 times. Coming up after the break, football great. Wait a minute. Olympic freestyle skiing great? How about both? Legendary multi-sport athlete and Renaissance man Jeremy Bloom joins us in the studio. There is no denying that two-time Olympian Jeremy Bloom remains a force in the sport of freestyle skiing, evidenced by his storied and successful career. But also his journey isn't just confined to the slopes. Plot twist, there's more to Bloom than meets the snow-goggled eye. Jeremy coming up in just a couple of minutes here on the show. But first, on the heels of a month-long pause from World Cup competition, the Stifel U.S. freestyle ski team was once again radiating success on a sunny course in Almaty, Kazakhstan. And after Ali Masuga came through with a career-best second place in moguls, there were more American accolades to come. In dual moguls, two-time Olympian Jalen Koff took on Australia's Jakara Anthony. Koff has had quite a showing this season, most recently taking second at Deer Valley. The results as close as you can get, with Anthony winning 18-17. Ultimately, Koff and Olivia Giacchio side by side on the podium, finishing second and third on the day and overall. Giacchio having succeeded in the small final over teammate Tess Johnson. The U.S. women swept second through sixth place, while another victory certified Anthony would take home all 3 Crystal Globes in the overall, moguls, and dual moguls. Quite impressive. The absolute perfect place to bring in legendary freestyle skier Jeremy Bloom, a two-time Olympian, multi-sport athlete, entrepreneur, author, philanthropist, father of 2. Did I miss anything else?
I think you got it all.
Are you sleeping at all?
No sleep with a 1-year-old.
He's had
Parents
quite a
can
career.
relate.
He's had quite a career. We're going to tell your whole life story. Hopefully I can work my way down the bullet points of the resume. But let's start with the dominance of the U.S. women in the moguls team and what they have done. Who particularly stands out to you and who has impressed you so much when you look at this group?
Well, it's hard to pick one. I mean, they occupy 60% of the top 10 right now as far as the world rankings go. 6 out of 10 are from the United States. I think they do a great job pushing each other. Sort of the ringleader is Jalen Koff. She's as aggressive as a female skier as I've ever seen. Like, if she was a golfer, on every par 4, she's going for the green. You know what I mean? Like, she never lays up, and she's really strong and good in the air. And then you have, Olivia, who sort of had her Roger Bannister moment when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile when no one thought that they could. She threw a D-spin 1080 and landed it. And so she's really pushing the sport forward. And the future is incredibly bright for U.S. skiing women. In fact, I think it's the most dominant and deeply talented team that the sport of freestyle skiing has ever seen.
Jeremy, you and I were just chatting before the show about the 2014 Olympics in Sochi, Russia. We were both there, and I was fortunate enough to cover moguls at that Games, and I remember seeing Canada's Mikaela Kingsbury for the first time, who just, oh, by the way, clinched the dual moguls and overall World Cup titles in Kazakhstan. And even then, 10 years ago, you could sense how special he was. When you think about his body of work, what comes to mind?
Well, I first met Mikaela Kingsbury when he was much younger than even 2014. At a World Cup in Mount Tremblant, Canada, there was this little kid that came up to me, and I took a photo and signed an autograph, and he sent me that photo. But if you look at any sport, you won't find a more dominant athlete in any discipline than Mikaela Kingsbury. I mean, a 60% win percentage, 60% of the events, the World Cups with the best skiers in the world, he has won. I mean, look at Tiger Woods, winning less than a quarter of a time, and everybody thinks that he was such a dominant athlete. Of course he was. So his body of work certainly speaks for itself. What he's accomplished in this sport, he is the best mogul skier of all time. It's just absolutely astonishing what Mikaela Kingsbury has accomplished in this sport.
And we had Johnny Mosley on the show a short time ago, and he talked a little bit about how his dinner roll sort of revolutionized the sport. And then he said when you came into the sport, it became evident, that you were going to be the next great sort of iteration in the development of the sport. So how did those off-axis tricks, those flips, the things that you brought, change the sport fundamentally?
Yeah, in the beginning of the sport, we couldn't do off-axis flips, and Johnny really pushed the sport forward with the dinner roll in 2002. And so for me, I had to learn how to do inverted tricks at 19. And I had a pretty compressed time schedule back then because I was playing for the University of Colorado football team. So that summer, after my first Olympics, I was the #1 ranked skier in the world and had to learn like a completely new trick thanks to Johnny. So I had 3 days on the water ramps in Park City to learn a D-spin, and then 3 days in Whistler on snow to sort of get the feeling for it. Then went back to the football season, played in the Big 12 championship game, then flew to Finland for my first World Cup, threw my first D-spin, landed it, got 4th place in that World Cup, and then flew back the next day for a bowl game at the Alamo Bowl against Wisconsin. So it was a busy time in my life when I was juggling, college football and World Cup skiing and learning a new trick. But it was a fun, that was the month of December.
Busy feels like a bit of an understatement. Yeah. Busy sounds like, I might have to do a couple of things in addition to becoming an Olympic skier and then also being drafted into the NFL, which you ultimately were. In all seriousness, when you detail that schedule, it's hard for some people to grasp. I mean, what do you remember most about your ability to compartmentalize 2 completely different sports?
I just remember living my childhood dream. I mean, that's what I wanted. That's always what I wanted to do. I wanted to play for University of Colorado from the time I was 10 years old, and I was watching them win national championships at Folsom Field. And of course, I always grew up skiing. Gosh, maybe someday I could make the Olympic team. So yeah, it was busy. Everything was compressed in my life, but I loved every second of it.
I do also want to mention your charitable organization, because this is really unique. We hadn't heard much about something like this. The foundation's called Wish of a Lifetime. This was inspired by your grandparents and also an act of kindness that you witnessed in Japan?
Sure was. My grandfather was my first ski instructor, and he used to throw little miniature-sized candy bars down the mountain, and if I could learn how to ski it, I could eat it. And my mom never let us eat candy. So he was an incredible guy, flew 17 missions over Germany in World War II, and I just loved him dearly, and also my grandmother had a deep bond with her. And so I was in Japan, one of the first trips I had taken outside the United States with the U.S. ski team at the age of 15, and I was on a really crowded bus in Tokyo. And I saw this older woman started walking onto the bus, probably in her 80s, and I watched everybody get out of their seats, help her onto the bus, make sure she had a seat, and then they bowed to her. And I was so struck at 15, I'm like, I want my grandparents to live in an environment where people respect them like this. And so it built over time, but Wish of a Lifetime today, we're granting over 1 wish per day. We're getting to meet some of the most incredible people. We're part of AARP now, and we're granting wishes all over the country and meeting extraordinary people.
What an impressive and important initiative to take care of so many people who have taken care of us. A fascinating lesson, one of many that we have learned from you today. Thanks so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back with more from the Stifel Snow Show. In a month that honors International Women's Day, Jessie Diggins and Rosie Brennan have proven time and time again that they can and always will go the extra mile in more ways than one. And we caught up with the women's cross-country team in Oslo, Norway. The historic Holmenkollen race stands at the apex in the world of skiing. A smile to start for Jessie Diggins, and the inaugural women's 50K Classic would prove nothing short of exciting. The yellow bib signifying her lead in the overall standings, with teammate Rosie Brennan in an impressive 4th in the overall. With relentless pace and a signature enthusiastic crowd, energy surging on the course, and unsurprisingly at such a distance, fatigue, an inevitable hallmark, yet still both Diggins and Brennan impressed, leading the U.S. women with 2 top 15 spots at the end. Brennan saying, "For me today, that's a result I'm proud of." Diggins became the first American to receive the prestigious Holmenkollen Medal, the highest Norwegian honor in skiing. The award presented by Crown Prince Haakon in the men's division, Norwegian skier and 2-time Olympic gold medalist Simen Hegstad Kruger receiving the award. And a hop to nearby Drammen, Norway, where it would seem a sprint would be a welcome race as days passed to 50K. Rosie Brennan had said just a day before she was feeling really bad on the heels of the over 31-mile push with only 3 days rest, no less. Yet in true Brennan fashion, she found the silver lining, playing to her double pole strength and signature grit, crossing the finish in 3rd place, a resilient comeback in what she described as a really tough year. Brennan earning her 5th individual podium of the season. Celebration and a lot of hugs were in order. We are off to Colorado now, and if perfection exists, two-time Olympic medalist Alex Ferreira knows all about it, having laced together the most dominant season in free ski history, culminating at Copper Mountain's Dew Tour. 7 for 7 is a charm for Ferreira, the Aspen, Colorado native, putting his signature spin on going undefeated in this season's free ski halfpipe, ending Dew Tour with the top spot, following a hometown win at X Games and going 5 for 5 in his World Cup starts after his run in Copper. He said, "I can't believe it. Perfect season. I'm in awe and just so grateful. Best day of my life." Teammate Nick Gepper in jeans, of course, earning his first half-pipe podium in second. As if the epic headline first ever alley-oop double McTwist 1260 isn't enough, American Lucas Foster earning his first career podium in third place at Dew Tour in the men's superpipe final. Foster adding that he's so glad that he trusted his run plan. He let it all come together, and all the hard work certainly paying off. He hit the podium alongside dominant Japanese athletes Ayumu Hirano and Yuto Totsuka. He's making his mark on the World Cup scene this season. It looks like he's in the starting gates for us. River Radamus will be here with us. Stay tuned for our conversation next. The path for an elite skier is rarely easy, even for the absolute best, which is why those breakthrough moments are so meaningful. Nobody knows that better than our next guest. We are so pleased to welcome U.S. ski team athlete and 2022 Olympian River Radamus joining us all the way from Austria. Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate you being with us. And we also can't forget, River, that in 2016 you were a three-time Youth Olympic Games gold medalist, which is pretty epic for a then 18-year-old. But let's start with such a well-deserved congratulations on your podium at Palisades, taking third in the giant slalom on home soil, which you said had been a long time coming. What did you mean by that? What has this journey to that moment been like for you?
Well, thanks again. First of all, thanks for having me. But I think as you just mentioned, I was a three-time Youth Olympic Games gold medalist. I had some success at World Juniors, and then I've had a long time struggling on the World Cup. It's been a lot of ups and downs for me, and a moment like I had in Palisades was one that at times I didn't know would ever happen. So to finally see the podium, step on the pine, as they say, and do that in the U.S. felt like the culmination of years of work for me.
What struck so many people, River, was this electric atmosphere in Palisades. I mean, even some of the European greats who have been all around the world in these incredible ski towns, competitors of yours like Marco Odermatt, they had such positive things to say about the energy and the crowd on home soil. What did it feel like?
Oh, it's really special. You know, that's one of the reasons that we all do this is to try to inspire the next generation, to inspire passion, and to see that passion so alive and well in the U.S. was very fulfilling, very rewarding for us. That was one of the biggest crowds we see all season, and I think it gave a really good representation of what ski racing means in the U.S. and how strong the ski culture is still here. So I felt like it heightened my intensity, heightened my level, and made me want to put on a show for the crowd, I guess.
You've called Ted Ligety a master of the craft. You guys are close. Some people have actually made comparisons between the both of you. What impact has Ted had on your career so far?
Oh, gosh. I think I wouldn't be where I am today without Ted Ligety in a lot of regards. I grew up idolizing him. He was my hero and the guy I always wanted to ski with and ski like. So getting those comparisons is always flattering, but nobody can ski like the master. Later on, I got to make it onto the World Cup tour and was teammates with him for a few years before he retired. And he really showed me the level that it takes to be able to compete at this level. You know, I think that he pushed me on and pulled me on through my early seasons of struggle and helped form me into the skier and the competitor that I am today.
How wonderful to have had that experience with Mr. GS. They don't call him that for nothing, but we actually had him on the Stifel Snow Show, and he mentioned how good you were specifically on difficult terrain. How much pride do you take in that ability to navigate terrain that some people might shy away from or not necessarily excel at?
I take a lot of pride in that. I think that was formed similarly. I grew up just learning from watching, and I would watch a lot of Ted Ligety, and then I would go out and I would ski and try to get massive angles and just push the skis to what their capabilities were, right to the limit. And similarly, that's how I developed my style, is just going out, exploring what was possible, going over the limit, and then figuring out where the limit was and trying to recalibrate. But I think that a lot of putting myself in uncomfortable positions, making mistakes, and skiing out of control, I think helped form me into a skier that's more adaptable and able to change with whatever the course gives me.
And is that an approach or a message that you try to share as a mentor to young skiers? Tell us about the ARCO Foundation and how meaningful that is to you.
Yeah, so the ARCO Foundation and the ARCO grant presented by World Cup Dreams Foundation are my first efforts at trying to give back to the sport that's given me so much. We're basically trying to give direct-to-athlete grants and fill the void so that athletes are able to bridge the gap and reach their full athletic potential in ski racing, and that financial situation or background have no bearing on how far you can get in this sport. This season was our first season with the ARCO grant, and we have 15 athletes we're supporting from across the country. Next season, we're hoping to double that. But yeah, it's been a fun process of learning and meeting the next generation and being able to be that mentor that, Ted and others were to me.
Yeah, it's critical to be able to open the door to everybody to continue to grow the sport, River. We could not be more excited to follow you as we look towards 2026. Cortina going to be here before we know it, but we're wishing you all the best in the meantime. We'll be watching. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Get out your calendars and make a note. We're bringing you all of the World Cup Alpine Finals action from Austria on both the men's and women's side. Tech and speed, we've got you covered live on Peacock and, of course, episode 16 of the Stifel Snow Show, March 23rd at 12:30 p.m. Eastern on CNBC. It has been an absolute pleasure being with you here today on the Stifel Snow Show. I'm Carolyn Manno. We'll see you next time.